Bitcoin. You've definitely heard the name, right? You've seen the crazy headlines. But what is it really? Is it a financial revolution that's about to change everything? Or is it just a massive digital bubble that's waiting to pop? Well, stick around because we are going to unpack this whole mystery.
It really all kicks off with a mystery. We're talking about a digital currency that pretty much appeared out of thin air, created by a total ghost, and yet it's got the entire world talking.
So where do we even begin with this story? Well, to really get Bitcoin, you have to go right back to the beginning. You have to start with its creator.
Picture this. It's 2009. The world is still reeling from the 2008 financial crash, and trust in the big banks has just collapsed. Out of nowhere, this paper appears online. It describes a new peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and the author's name? Satoshi Nakamoto.
And this is where the story gets really weird. To this day, nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto actually was. Was it one single genius? A secret team of developers? We just don't know. And that total anonymity has become a huge part of the Bitcoin legend.
Okay, so we've got a creator who's a complete ghost. But how in the world do you run a global financial network with nobody in charge? Well, the answer isn't a person, it's the technology that powers the whole thing. You see, the whole system was designed from the ground up to work without any central authority. And that means no bank that has to approve your transaction and no government that can just print more money. It's a completely radical idea compared to how we normally think about finance.
The technology that makes all of this possible is called the blockchain. Now, the simplest way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like a giant shared digital checkbook. Every single transaction gets recorded as a block, and that block gets added to a chain, creating this permanent public record that everyone on the network can see and trust.
So you might be wondering, if there are no banks, who's actually verifying all these transactions? Who's adding them to the blockchain? That is where mining comes in. All around the world, super powerful computers are competing to solve these incredibly difficult math puzzles. The first one to crack the puzzle gets to validate the latest batch of transactions, add it to the chain, and for all that work, they earn brand new Bitcoin as a reward. It's how the network stays secure, and it's also how new coins are created.
So what does a transaction actually look like? Well, imagine you want to send some Bitcoin to a friend. You just initiate the payment from your digital wallet. In an instant, this global network of computers, the miners, races to verify it. And once it's confirmed, it gets locked into a new block on that chain, making it permanent, public, and impossible to change. Okay, so that's the how it works. But the why is what really gets people going. What is the big promise of Bitcoin that gets millions of people so excited? Let's break it down. The appeal is actually a mix of a few things. For some people, it's a political statement. It's about freedom from banks and governments. For others, it's a way to protect their money from inflation. And of course, for a lot of people, it's a high-stakes, high-reward investment, a bet on this revolutionary new technology itself.
This really gets to the core of the idea, a financial system that's managed by the people who use it, with no middlemen taking a cut or telling you what you can and can't do. That's a really powerful idea.
21 million. I want you to remember that number. That's it. That is the total number of Bitcoins that will ever exist. It's literally hard-coded into the system. So unlike regular currencies that governments can print more and more of, Bitcoin is designed to be scarce. And that scarcity is key to its whole potential as a store of value.
But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. For every single promise, there's a risk. And it is absolutely crucial that we look at the other side of this coin, the very real dangers that are involved. So here's the fundamental trade-off. On one hand, you get the freedom of being your own bank. But on the other hand, you have to deal with extreme volatility. We're talking prices that can skyrocket or just crash in a single day. You get to escape the old rules, but that also means you lose all the safety nets.
Now, volatility is the big one that everyone talks about, but there are others. Security is a huge concern, not just from hackers, but from simple human error. Then you've got regulatory risk because governments all over the world are still trying to figure out what to do with this stuff. And finally, there's the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining, which uses a ton of electricity and is becoming a pretty big controversy.
And let me be crystal clear about the security risk. With Bitcoin, you are your own bank. That sounds great, but it means if you lose the private keys, think of it as the master password to your digital wallet, your money is gone. Poof, forever. There is no customer service line you can call. There's no forgot password button to click. The responsibility is 100% on you.
So, after all the hype, all the warnings, what's the end game here?
Is Bitcoin really the future of money, or is it just some fascinating dead end? Let's look at the two most likely outcomes.
So, broadly speaking, there are two competing visions for the future. On one side, you've got the digital golds theory. This argues that Bitcoin will become a globally recognized way to store value, kind of like gold, but for the internet age. The other side argues that it'll eventually fail or be replaced by official digital currencies issued by governments themselves.
You know, the truth is probably going to be somewhere in the middle. After more than a decade, Bitcoin has proven it has staying power. It's definitely not just a passing fad. But its final role in our financial system, that is far from settled. The road ahead is still long and very unpredictable.
Which brings us right back to our original question. Now that we've seen the mysterious origins, the brilliant tech, the powerful promise, and the serious risks, what do you think? Is this a revolution that's going to change our world, or is it a massive bubble just waiting to pop?
The final chapter of Bitcoin's story hasn't been written yet, not even close. But the question is no longer just about technology. It's about what we want our money to be. Who controls it? What makes it valuable? What role should it play in society? That's the real revolution. And now, you've got the tools to follow along as the story unfolds.